Hey, it's Eric G. Around the House is sponsored by Baldwin Hardware. For 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been known for its first-class quality and craftsmanship in door and cabinetry hardware. As an alumnus of the Baldwin Hardware Design Council, I can say I have seen the details and quality from design to the finished product. If you're looking for a new style and old-world craftsmanship, I can tell you there is only one Baldwin Hardware. Check out what would look great in your home at baldwinhardware.com.
It's Around the House. When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to the Around the House show. This is where we hope you get the most out of your home through information and education. Thanks for joining me today. Happy midweek special. Happy Wednesday. Man, this is a crazy busy week for me because next week I'll be down at Design and Construction Week in Las Vegas for the big show, and there's so much going on down there. Can't wait to share it all with you. Well, if you want to find out more information about us, head over to aroundthehouseonline.com, and you can find us over there. And of course, if you want to contact us, there's the phone number, and of course, you can email us from the website. All right, guys, well, I wanted to talk about something that is going on here in the Pacific Northwest, which is going to affect a lot of the country, because I know if it's going on here, it's going to hurt all of us. And so this is something that's really happened this year, and it's been very interesting to watch. So in Oregon, where I live here, we have already closed three big Oregon sawmills. It's the big shutdown of 2024. And that's what's interesting. So just this last week, Canadian Timber Company shut down their operations in Philoma, basically outside of Corvallis, taking away 100 jobs. That is the third Oregon sawmill to close. And so Hampton Lumber closed its Banks Mill in January. And who else did? Oh, Roseboro Co. temporarily closed its Springfield Mill and laid off 25. So all of these things typically are temporary. I mean, usually they come back on. But when they close them down, this could be years, it could be months, it could be whatever else is going on. And so what's interesting, though, is Interfor bought the Philoma Mill in 2021 from GP, Georgia Pacific. And that's really, you wouldn't just go buy it and shut it down. So I started kind of digging into some of the story here with this and what's going on here. And it looks like we have some new legislation here that is causing these increased lumber prices, at least coming out of Oregon. Now, I don't know if this is going to affect the whole West Coast, if it's going to affect a lot, but there's a lot of lumber that comes out of our area here. And both Hampton and Roseboro both blame two new Oregon policies, the Habitat Conservation Plan and the Private Forest Timber Accord, for raising lumber log prices coming into those mills. And so it really greatly reduced the amount of logs that can go into the mills, which made them more rare, which made them more expensive. And basically they said, well, with our reduced demand out there, there's not a lot of people building homes compared to what we were 3 years ago. And so with that lower demand, they said, hey, it's not worth it. It doesn't make sense. So now we're losing jobs and closing in lumber mills. And there's some interesting stuff going on here as well. You know, these lumber mills, if you think about it, if you don't know how these lumber mills work, in these areas where the lumber mills are, if there's no logging, it doesn't make sense for those loggers to ship that stuff across the state, across the country. Those logs, it's an expense. So usually those mills are in a central area and there's logging all around it. When they close those down, now those loggers have to take those logs and ship them someplace else or not log that area at all. And so that's what gets interesting. Now, here's another thing that I'm seeing, and there's a big downturn right now in the overall building community that I'm seeing, because I am seeing people on LinkedIn and friends of mine out there that are in the building community that are big movers and shakers. You are seeing companies cut out many of their specialty programs, their most energy efficient ones, all of this stuff, their new home building programs. A lot of these companies now I'm starting to see are reducing staff because of reduced demand because of lower housing starts. And so what we're seeing now is we're starting to see companies really cut back, which means that's a loss of jobs. So I think we're at the beginning in the building community of a lot of loss of jobs. It's looking that bleak because when we start to see the lumber companies shutting down lumber mills, we're seeing companies laying off people. It looks like we're kind of hitting a big downturn right now. So this is something that we should keep an eye on. If you're in the building community out there, if you're one of the contractors, make sure that you've got a good solid foundation and footing for your business. If you're working in the trades, stay busy, stay educated. You'll be fine. All the good people leave, but all the good people will actually make it. The ones that aren't leave. So this is kind of that part where it seems like every decade we have a period where all of those people, we kind of weed out some of those. And it seems like we might be going into that. And it's one of those things right now that's happening in the mortgage industry. You see that mortgage companies, you drive by and go, wow, there was a mortgage company in that location here 6 months ago. We're seeing that start to weed people out again. And so this happens every few years, at least every decade, we start to see this. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people lose their work. But this is something I just want to make sure that everybody's paying attention to, that we're definitely seeing a downturn right now. And how does that affect things? Well, I think eventually it's going to make for lower prices. We're going to start to see prices go down because they're going to have to if they can do it. So the problem is inflation has made things so expensive. If we can see some gas prices go down and we start to see that go down, like diesel, those kind of things, if we can see that demand go down, that's going to reduce some overhead. You'll start to see that stuff help a little bit, but we're definitely seeing some cutbacks out there, and it's something that I'm concerned about. And it's one of those things that for the big home builders can be rough as well, because for the big home builders, that can be a tough situation. And this is where we start to see home builders that have been just running and gunning for 5 to 7 years or even a decade. This is where we start to see those guys filing bankruptcy or closing up shop. And when we see those large local or regional builders close up, that takes down lumber yards, cabinet companies, people like that extended credit out to them. So this could be a much bigger thing. Be real careful out there as a consumer. Be careful with paying for anything with a builder up front. Pay as work goes. Be careful on your contracts and make sure that they're always licensed, bonded, insured when you're working with them to make sure you're protected, that there is some kind of way that you can possibly get money back if they decide to disappear on you in the middle of a project. So guys, just be a little careful out there moving forward in 2024, no matter if you're a builder, a remodeler, or a homeowner. There's things you should be paying attention to out there to, reduce your risk and make sure that you're good for the rest of the year. Now, for our recalls, we got a bunch of stuff that just popped up this week. Electrolux Group recalls Frigidaire freestanding ranges. Now, these are the controls on the back or in the front, but they have that back in the back. So it's a freestanding range, not where you have it smooth across the top, but it'll have that back panel up there on your freestanding range. Due to electrical shock and electrocution hazards, the control panel or user interface on the ranges can detach from the unit, posing electrical shock and electrocution hazards. It looks like they should stop using these recalled Frigidaire rear control ranges and contact Electrolux Group for a free repair professional installation of a new control panel. There's only about 1,800 of these, so there's not a lot of them. But the model number you should start looking for is on the cpsc.gov recalls page. But a lot of the numbers are FCRG, or the first numbers of that. That's the style of range that you should pay attention to. And that detail is over there. Next up, we have one here. We've got Charbroil recalls digital electric smokers due to risk of electric shock. The smokers can leak electrical current during use, posing an electric shock hazard. There's about 211,000 of these units, almost 212,000, with 3,400 of these units sold in Canada. Basically, they're putting on a GFCI plug to make sure that it doesn't have an issue. And that's kind of interesting because I'm not a fan of that. If it's leaking electrical current, adding that on there says that it's still leaking electrical current. And they're just putting it on there to keep you from getting hurt. That's a little concern. I would double check on that. But if you have a Charbroil digital electric smoker, check that thing out. Now, There's a lot of other little stuff on there. There's a greenhouse that looks like there's about 12,800 of them. Ocean State job lot recalls growing table mini greenhouse and raised garden bed due to fire hazard. Those are overheating, so those look like a big cooler on a stand with the lid goes up. And be careful of those, about 12,800. And again, these were sold through HomeLot e-commerce is where those were sold through. So if you have one of those, check it out. More information about all those recalls, go to cpsc.gov/recalls. All that information is over there. And if you have a Toshiba laptop, there's about 15.5 million adapters. The power adapters can overheat and spark. Be careful if you're a Toshiba user for those adapters for laptops. Check it out. That's a massive recall with 15.5 million of those things out there. All right, everybody, I got to get back into the studio and finish up my TV show and get that going, but I just wanted to get this out to you today. I hope everybody's having a great rest of the week. We'll see you Saturday for a big show. We got a ton of interviews planned. Thanks for tuning in to Around the House. We'll see you on Saturday.
Anywhere beyond the mean, life is a love song, let's be lovers. We're all over the radio, take my hand, I know where to go. All over the radio with you.
Hey, it's Eric G. from Around the House. Are you planning a decking or siding project this year? If you are, you've got to check out my friends at Millboard. Millboard is a completely different kind of composite decking and cladding that enhances outdoor spaces with enduring distinction. Hand-molded from the finest oak, it realistically mimics the natural grain and color of premium hardwood. If you're looking for something that doesn't look like plastic and instead real wood, check out millboard.com. Make sure and check out that interview we did just a few weeks back. That's millboard.com.